our Autel MP408 scope here. Got some printed stuff that we've got to look at. I'll get my tablet out. We'll get this hooked up. Before we can do that, I need to be able to access the harness for at least the front two O2 sensors here so we can take a look at what they're doing. I'm going to take this cover off here. It's got two, I believe, 8mm bolts and a 10mm bolt. We're going to pull this off, and I think the harness, the plugs are right under there. We'll be able to back probe them and use the scope and the tablet to see the waveforms of the O2 sensors. Like I said, I'm going to replace them anyway, whether they look good or not, just because of the how rusty and corroded they are, and given the fact it does have codes, and I'm expecting that I'm going to have to replace the exhaust system on it because it's pretty rotted. Even though I do have the sensors, I want to see what the new scope does and see if I can figure out why it's throwing the code for the front bank catalyst not warming up appropriately. Also picked up a exhaust pressure gauge, so we'll hopefully be able to see if the catalyst is plugged. And by pulling this cover and pulling the oxygen sensor up here, we should be able to look down there and see if the honeycombs of the catalyst are still intact. So let's get this cover off. Let's get our tablet and our scope hooked up and get the car warmed up and see what it does. Okay, we got the cover off here. You can see this is the upstream O2 sensor down there. That's what we're going to test first. This is bank 2. There's the downstream one is down there. The connector, this is the downstream connector, and this is the upstream one, and it's very, very brittle because this car has got a lot of miles on it. So the connector is broken, or the harness broke off the plastic cover here, so we'll have to fix that. This has got 4 wires. The black one is your signal wire, the white so your heaters, and I believe the gray is a ground for the sensor. So we're going to back probe the signal wire here, and that's going to go to one channel on our scope, and then we've got to pick up a ground for the scope to connect to, and we should be able to look at the signal coming out of the O2 sensors. We'll do the same thing for this guy here so we can look at the front bank at once. The back one doesn't look like it's too fun to get to, so we're going to just take a look at our front one for the moment here and see what it looks like. Did notice that it's got a heavy oil leak right there, so we'll probably have to do valve cover gaskets on this at some point, and it looks like at least one of the coils has been changed, maybe 2 of them. I don't know if the plugs have been changed. I know at least one plug has been changed. I have a brand new set of plugs we're going to throw in this car. I'm waiting for the new PCV valve and hose because I got it apart, and this is a common failure point on this car, so we're going to change it. I have brand new upper intake manifold gaskets, and like I said, brand new plugs, and we'll just go through the whole car. I'm not going to do that today. That'll be a separate video. Today we're focusing on looking at how to connect your Autel MP408 scope to look at your O2 sensor signals on our 2005 Mazda 6. Then I'm going to work on getting the upstream sensor out and replaced, and the downstream sensor out and replaced. We'll see how far we get today. Like I said, these sensors are pretty crusty looking, and that one actually looks like it's about ready to break off. So we're going to put brand new sensors in here regardless of what the computer shows, because it's got 200,000 miles on it, and the exhaust system is pretty raunchy looking. So in your Autel kit, you'll get some of these back probes. We're going to pick one of the probes here. We'll go with the black one, or black and red. We'll back probe this guy here. This will be one channel. Let's step over our cables here. I'm going to plug in our OBDWiz MX Plus and get the car warmed up. We're going to set our e-brake because we don't have front brakes in it right now. Got our dongle plugged in. And let's fire her up. Didn't see if we can see what's going on there. Channel B should be auto as well. There we go. So you can see the signals coming from, so the green signal is our downstream, that's channel B, that's our downstream sensor. And then channel A, the orange red signal, is our upstream sensor. And let's see, now the car hasn't warmed up yet. Let's take a look, see if I can see. Yeah, that doesn't, this is the first time I've really used this, so. Let's crank our time up here. So it only goes to 10 milliseconds. Alright, so that's looking at, we've got that going. You can see it's jumping around, those are the voltages right there. Let's open up our OBDWiz application here and see if we can sync up to our dongle in the car and see what the computer is looking at. Alright, there we go, connecting to ECU. Yeah, that's fine. And we should be able to, that's fine. System to lean off idle, yep, we know those are, so these are confirmed codes P2177 and P2179, and then, so these are both lean off idle, which probably have to do with our mass airflow sensor that we replaced. And then these guys are pending, warm-up catalyst efficiency below threshold, so this should be relating to the downstream O2 sensor on bank 2, which is the front bank closest to the radiator. And then we have 2198, O2 sensor stuck rich, and another 2179 to lean off idle. So these are just pending, they haven't set yet. So we've got to try and figure out what those are from. This is, again, the first time I'm really using these applications, the MaxiScope and the OBDWiz application here. So we should be able to, I believe, look at our O2 sensors here. Not sure how you... description. So we've got those set to plus or minus 1 volt DC. It looks like they're both reading around 200 millivolts. Let's see if we can, where's our, so there's our PID values here. Let's see what the computer is seeing. Alright, so this is our PID graphing here in OBDWiz. Let's stop this here for a second. Let's look at configure. So the two sensors that we are looking at here, we're looking at bank 2 sensor 1, which is our upstream sensor, and we're looking at bank 2 sensor 2, which is our downstream sensor. So the upstream sensor is blue, and the downstream sensor is red. And we are going to look at it for approximately 1 minute, according to the all data schematics I have here, and see what the inversion rates are. So click OK, and we're going to click continuous, so it's going to continue to monitor it. Now the car is probably not quite warmed up yet. And the system does not respond to O2 sensors when it is in, I believe, open loop. When it's in closed loop, it does. So when it's warmed up, it should look at the O2 sensor, the input from the O2 sensor. There's a lot of changes in that downstream O2 sensor. The upstream one appears to be, at least from what I can tell, doing what it's supposed to be doing. You should see it invert, up and down, and it'll fluctuate between lean, rich, rich, lean. But I believe the downstream one is supposed to stay pretty steady, and I can see that there are quite a bit of inversions in here, and that P0431 code, I believe, refers to that downstream O2 sensor. Yeah, so the car has come up to operating temperature. I don't want to spend too much time on this today because, like I said, I'm going to replace them whether they're bad or not, just simply because the car has 200,000 miles on it, and they're pretty gross looking, as is the entire rest of the exhaust system. And I'm still trying to really learn how to do this stuff. Like, this is the first time I've really spent some time looking at how to do this type of diagnostic work. In the past, I just shotgun the parts cannon at it and see what responded. So really trying to teach myself how to do this. So this video basically shows you how to hook up the scope and look at the Bank 2 Sensor 1 and Bank 2 Sensor 2 on your OBDWiz application. It's not an Autel application, it's not an Autel tablet, it's not Snap-on or anything like that. I think total investment, the scope was around $400, and the software was, I think I spent maybe $100 on the dongle, which comes with the basic version of OBDWiz, and then I spent another $120 on the plugins for the Mazda for OBDWiz. So I don't know, $600-700 maybe. So pretty easy, cheap, or inexpensive way to get started with this if you don't have $2,700 to go buy a full-on diagnostic tablet. Let's see what our scope looks like. See, and I'm not really sure how to read this yet, or if I've got it configured appropriately. We definitely want to have it at the 5 megahertz range, I believe. And then we've got it won't let me go any more than 10 milliseconds. So that could be a limitation of the scope. I've got to do some more homework on how to use the scope. This is the first time I've even plugged it into anything to look at it. So I'll have to come back to the table once I have a little more information. But the ALLDATA DIY tool or paperwork, they're looking at the PIDs. They're not really telling you how to look at it with a scope, from what I can see here. So let's see here. Change out an O2 sensor. A lot of cars like this one have 4 O2 sensors. When you order them, they're not all created equal. There are upstream ones, downstream ones, and so I have gone through, since I ordered all 4 of them, and matched the part number to the position. So today we need the upstream front, which is Denso part number 234-4398, and the downstream front, which is Denso part number 234-4397. The rear downstream one is Denso part number 234-4040. And the rear upstream one is Denso part number 234-4190. Probably not going to do those today because those look miserable to change, and the codes are related to the front bank. I doubt this is going to fix it. I'm pretty sure, based on the graphs that we just looked at, and comparing it with the graph from ALLDATA DIY, that the front cat is probably failing. And again, that's a common issue on this car, so would not shock me if it was failing. So I'm going to change it just to see if we can squeak it through inspection, and then we'll deal with it after that. So you'll want an O2 socket set. I believe these are 7/8 or 22 millimeters. Picked this up off Amazon. It's an Aries or RE's oxygen sensor socket set, part number 70318. Never used this before, so we'll open this up and see if it can help us get the bad, or the presumed bad, O2 sensors out of the car. Junk pile back there. I've never used these before, so I got pretty good reviews. They look like they're pretty decent sockets. So we'll probably need this one and possibly one of these guys here. Looks like it comes with a 3/8 drive and a 1/2-inch drive, and it's got some thread chasers to clean the threads out. So lots of, it's actually a pretty nice set here. So looks like it'll do as 22mm. There's 27 and there's 7/8. So we have a lot of options here to be able to get those out of the car. Before we start, I did squirt a little coil down there. We're going to come up here and gently disconnect this harness. It looks like a lot of the zip ties, this car is old, have already failed. So we'll just do the best we can, and then we'll just zip tie it back in place. The car is hot right now, so we have to let it cool down a little bit. I'm going to try and get the harnesses disconnected while we wait, and then I've got to figure out how we're going to get the socket and extension down there to break that loose. To get the upstream front O2 sensor out, we disconnected the harness. I have a 22/7/8mm, the universal socket, I guess, O2 sensor socket on there. I have a wobble down at the bottom there because you can't really get an angle on it, and some long 1/2-inch extensions and a breaker bar, and I've already cracked it loose. It's I just got to spin it out, and we'll have that out here in a second. We can take a look at what it looks like and see if I can get a flashlight down there and see what the catalyst looks like. Unfortunately, I don't think the camera will pick up on it, but I can still see the honeycomb in the catalyst. So I think the catalyst, I mean, that doesn't tell me if it's plugged at the bottom or, you know, if it's not working efficiently anymore. I mean, it looks okay. I don't see any chunks missing out of it. I don't see anything plugging it up. So let me get out the vacuum or the exhaust pressure gauge, and we'll take a look and see what that does. Again, brand new kit, never used it, just got it in. It's an OEM Tools exhaust back pressure set, model number 27263, came from Summit Racing. I think it was, I don't know, maybe 50 bucks, something like that, I don't remember. What's nice about this kit, again, I just got this in this week, I've never used it, but what's nice about it is it should fit right in the O2 sensor. It comes with instructions, so it should fit right down in the O2 sensor spot, and we'll put this hose on it and we'll be able to see what the exhaust back pressure is. According to these instructions, we have 4 O2 sensors. They want you to start at the top of the engine and work down. So we're going to start at the upstream sensor, which we just pulled. We're going to install this adapter. We're going to put the gauge on it, and we're going to start it up. We're going to see where it looks at, where the gauge is at idle. According to this, it shouldn't read over 1.25 psi or 0.09 bar or be in the red zone. If it is, we've got to figure out where the restriction is and correct it. If step 5 looks good, we'll proceed to step 6 and we'll rev it to 2500 RPM. If the reading is in the red zone or 3 psi, 0.21 bar, there's a restriction in its exhaust system and we need to repair it. If the vehicle has a Y pipe with converters on both sides, a reading must be taken ahead of both converters. We're probably not going to get to the back section today, and you know, we'll go from there and see how it looks. So let's get this adapter plugged in here, and then we'll put the hose on and we'll start the car up. Got our exhaust back pressure gauge hooked up here. It's out of the way of everything. The adapter is just, you know, hand snug down there. Let's hop in the car. I've got the gauge here in the window, so we should be able to see it. Don't want to pull it off there. Sit it up there for the moment. Stay. There's my key. Unfortunately, I can't leave the key in the ignition because the fan runs. We've got to fix that. So let's start her up. Take a look at our gauge here. So it's in the green. Let's rev her up to 2500. Yeah, so nothing too bad there, I don't think. That's well within spec. It's in the green. If it were in the red, we have a problem. So we'll put our new sensor in place, and we'll move to the downstream side on the front bank. Our new O2 upstream O2 sensor is back in place. We've got the wire kind of hanging out there. Once we change the downstream one, I'll come back in with some zip ties and clean it back up, because these are all broken from being, they're just brittle. I pulled this plug off here for the downstream. I just took a pair of needle noses and I squeezed the back, pulled it out. We will have to get this pin off and put it onto the new sensor, I believe, and I will do that once I get the sensor out of the car. So we'll disconnect this. I will get the ramp out and jack this corner of the car up, because the downstream one is right about there, and we'll break that loose, we'll swap it out, and put it all back together. The downstream sensor on our Mazda here is a little fun to get at. The sockets that I got, this one just slips on it. It doesn't really fit very well, and because the cross member is in the way, you can't get the deeper socket on. What I did was I trimmed the connector off of the end of the O2 sensor, and I took a 7/8 wrench and I slid it over that, and I've coiled it, and I've got it broken loose. I'm working it back and forth to get it out of the car. It's in there really good. So just if you're going to do it, coil it, or some kind of penetrating oil, work it back and forth. You don't want to break it in there. You can see our flange doesn't look too healthy. Heat shield's all falling off, so the car really needs an exhaust system, but I'm trying not to go that route just at the moment here. Got our O2, we've got our exhaust pressure gauge hooked up here. Let's see if we can see it from inside the car. This is hooked up to the downstream side. Start the car up. All right, looks, try this again. All right, that's at idle. Jumping around a little bit. Let's rev her to 2500. Yeah, it's probably borderline. All right, working on unpackaging our front downstream O2 sensor. I did have to clear the threads with this thread chaser tap a little bit that came in our Aries kit here. So let me get this unpacked. We'll put a little never seize on it, put it back in the exhaust, and then we'll run the cable up here. We'll zip tie everything, plug everything back in, and that should be pretty much it. We'll check it with the computer and see if it looks any different. Okay, we've got our front upstream and downstream O2 sensors changed. Let's go back into OBDWiz here, and let's take a look at what the graphs look like. Connect it. There we go. Continue. The car is not quite warmed up yet. Let's look at our logs. Let's do continuous. That actually looks a lot better. That looks like what I think it's supposed to be. So the red one, let's go back here. Let's go back. Let's look at our configure. Let me just verify. Yes, so bank 2, sensor 2 is our downstream sensor. Bank 2, sensor 1 is our upstream sensor, which is blue. So the downstream is red. Again, now the car is not warmed up yet. Let's go back into continuous monitor mode here. I believe that is what this is supposed to look like. So you're supposed to see, so the blue line is supposed to go up and down, and that is your car, that is your sensor going from lean to rich, etc. And your downstream one, I believe, is supposed to be pretty solid most of the time. So let's see, we're almost up to temp here. Let's rev her up to about 2500. All right, so that looks good, I think. So that to me is a huge difference. Now that we have our brand new O2 sensors in the front bank, that looks like what I believe it is supposed to be. So let me stop this and save this. So these will be green and orange. Let's do continuous. So I think those rear O2 sensors are actually functioning. Now, the downstream one in the back might not be. So they may need to be changed as well, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to do those today.